Modern Horizons 3 was loaded with powerful magic cards, but one that didn't get much love was Genku Future Shaper. And I think I know why. Looking at Genku's EDH rec page, he's got just over 800 decks, with the most common strategy being Blink. And that's the mistake. Genku is not a good Blink commander. Let me explain. Blink commanders can largely be split into three key categories: enablers, targets, and payoffs. The most common category are the enablers: Brago King Eternal, Abdel Adrian, Philia Exuberant Shepherd, Aminato the Fate Shifter, Yorion Sky Nomad, etc. These commanders are easy to build around because you can throw down your value pieces first, then cast your commander to dip back into those value pieces again and again. The target category refers to commanders that want to be blinked for value. Creatures like Atraxa, Grand Unifier, Pontlaza, Sunfavored, or Tivit, Seller of Secrets, for example. These commanders have such powerful enter the battlefield effects that you can focus on just blinking them to generate value and grind out a win. Finally, you got payoff commanders. These are the commanders that improve your blink spells in some other way, typically by adding an effect whenever something enters or leaves the battlefield. This includes cards like Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, Preston the Vanisher, and Yarok the Desecrated, who can mimic a Panharmonicon and double your ETB effects. This category also includes creatures like Galadriel, Light of Valinor, Ephara, God of Polis, and Raynar the Ever-Watchful that add a new effect whenever you exile a creature or a creature enters the battlefield. In my experience, blink enablers and blink targets are generally easier to build around, as half of your strategy is always in the command zone. Blink payoff commanders are a little more difficult. Since your commander only enhances your strategy, you still have to find both blink targets and a separate blink engine to actually get things going. With this added difficulty, the payoff effect for these commanders needs to be incredibly strong. Preston the Vanisher, for example, doubles your ETB effects and gives you illusion tokens that can be used as removal. It also triggers any number of times each turn. Galadriel is another good example. While her ability can only be activated 3 times a turn, each effect is incredibly strong, and it works when you cast your creatures as well, meaning you get value even before you find a blink engine. Let's compare these two payoff commanders to Genku. Genku Future Shaper is a 4-mana legendary Moonfolk wizard. He costs 2 generic, 1 white, and 1 blue mana. Genku has 2 power and 5 toughness to go along with his 2 abilities. His first ability says, whenever another non-token permanent you control leaves the battlefield, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Create a creature token with those characteristics. A 2/2 white fox with vigilance, a 1/2 blue moonfolk with flying, or a 1/1 black rat with lifelink. Similar to Galadriel, Genku's ability can only trigger 3 times a turn, only the effect is significantly weaker. Instead of drawing cards, making mana, and growing your board, Genku makes a few relatively weak tokens. But those tokens are stronger than the tokens Preston the Vanisher makes, right? Well, actually no. While Genku's tokens do have better base stats, Preston's tokens can be sacrificed to exile any non-land permanent, and as a creature copy, they likely have high value ETB effects. Not to mention, Preston has no limit on his trigger. Blinking your board with Preston could easily net you 5, 6, even 10 tokens. Genku will never make more than 3 in a single turn. So let's recap. Genku is a horrible blink target. He doesn't enable a blink deck, and his payoff for blinking creatures isn't even very strong. In other words, Genku is not a good blink commander. While blinking a non-token permanent will trigger Genku's ability, so will sacrificing or bouncing non-token permanents back to hand. This is a much stronger and more interesting strategy for Genku in my opinion. Now, when you hear sacrificing permanents, your mind may have gone straight to aristocrats, but I think that's also a mistake. While it could work, Azorius doesn't have many payoffs for creatures dying. What's more, Genku has a second ability that we haven't even talked about. For 5 mana, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. If you plan on sacrificing or blinking your creatures, this ability loses almost all of its value. It might as well be flavor text. But what if you built a sacrifice deck that doesn't sacrifice creatures? Well, now you have a go-wide deck with the finisher in the command zone. The key with Genku is that any non-token permanent leaving the battlefield will trigger his first ability. That includes artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, battles, and lands. You could easily build Genku as an egg commander, playing lots of cheap artifacts that sacrifice themselves for value, and there are plenty of ways to take advantage of having a lot of artifacts as well. You could even do a modular sub-theme that would synergize with Genku's +1/+1 counter ability. Another idea? Azorius enchantments. Yes, not having green means you miss out on several enchantress effects, though there is one in white and one in blue. But since you're doing an enchantment sacrifice theme, you get to instead take advantage of a bunch of unconventional cards you've probably never seen in Commander. Faith Healer, Hatching Plans, Seal of Cleansing, Seal of Removal, Aura of Silence, Teferi's Care, and the list goes on. You could even do a Saga sub-theme or take advantage of cumulative upkeep enchantments. Okay, one more idea. You could also do an Azorius lands theme. Every fetch land, including Evolving Wilds, will make you a token. Throw in some landfall effects and land recursion spells, and suddenly your commander is an army in a can. Better yet, Genku's second ability is a built-in mana sink, meaning no matter how much you ramp, you've always got something to spend your mana on. Of course, within each of these strategies, you should also run a small package of Counters Matters cards. Boss Ree's Lieutenant makes for a good backup plan. Danny Pink will draw you an obscene amount of cards, and Sigarda's Summon could be another powerful finisher. Now, as I was doing research for this video, I couldn't help but start brewing. Genku is just so versatile and unique, and so I actually built my own deck. I was originally going to do an enchantments theme, but I ended up moving over to Azorius lands instead. The original Moonfolk from Kamigawa all had unique land-based abilities, and it felt right to lean in that direction. If you're interested in my current list, I've added a Mox build link in the description. Obviously, you'll see a lot of the cards I already mentioned, but let's talk about how it plays and some of the decisions I made. First, I ended up using Snowlands for all of my basics. The main reason for this was Sunstone, which works as a repeatable fog for as long as I have Snowlands to sacrifice. And remember, whenever I sacrifice a land, I get a body. Since I was already using Snowlands, it made sense to add a few more snow cards. Ascendant Spirit is a particularly good fit in the deck, as the deck is pretty reactive and wants to hold up mana until the end step before my turn, and Ascendant Spirit provides another mana sink. The deck runs 12 basic lands, and it's not hard to get all of them on the field using catch-up ramp cards like Claim Jumper and Surveyor's Scope. As I'm constantly sacrificing my lands to effects like Sunstone, Aura Fracture, Excavation, and Soldevi Sage, I'm easily able to take advantage of these catch-up ramp cards. And of course, after I've sacrificed several of my lands and generated 3 tokens for my commander, I can use a card like Second Sunrise or Gerard's Hourglass Pendant to bring all of them back to the battlefield. Not only does this give me an obscene amount of mana, but it triggers all of my landfall payoffs. Cards like Felidar Retreat and Retreat to Emeria can be used to buff my team before an attack. Or, if it's not my turn, maybe I'm flooding the board with tokens from Field of the Dead or Emeria Angel. I will admit, the deck is a little light on removal and board wipes, and I've found in my games I have to be very selective with the spells I counter and the permanents I remove. That's partly why I also added a few particularly nasty, although very synergistic, cards to the deck. First, there's World Queller and Mana Vortex, which will force each player to sacrifice a land every turn. This hurts me much less than it hurts my opponents, and it can be devastating to play against. I also have Royal Elemental in the deck, which can easily steal every creature on the table if left untouched. We'll see though. If these cards prove to be too brutal, I may swap them out for cards like Crucible of Worlds or something. Finally, since the deck has several ways to tutor for lands, I added the Dark Depths Thespian Stage combo. I'm sorry, but I just can't say no to a 2020 indestructible flyer. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of my Genku deck. If you have any ideas for cards I may have missed, or want to recommend another commander for me to build around, please leave a comment below. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to help my channel grow.